For today's head-to-head, we have two bikes in the really hot light assist category. Over here we have the Pivot Shuttle SL, one of the first light assist eMTBs and one of the first to incorporate the Fazua Ride 60 drive system. Now over here we have the Norco Fluid VLT 130. Now this bike has the new Bosch SX drive system. Now these bikes have a lot in common. I put them on the scale and they weigh the identical 39 pounds 6 ounces. They have the same head angle, their chainstays are within a few millimeters of each other, and their price is fairly close. So let's get into it. All right, Dylan, how do you feel about a wee race?
Let's do it. Yeah, both these motors are pretty similar, so I think we have to.
Yeah, so just for the record, Bill and I are very close in weight, and we've ridden enough together to know that we have comparable fitness. But to be clear, this is very unscientific. We're going to race these two bikes up this double track and see how it goes.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, well, that was to be expected. This bike has 600 watts of power. This has 350 with a boost mode that gives you 450 for only 12 seconds. To be clear, I hit that boost mode for 12 seconds, then I hit it again.
Yep.
And then I hit it again.
Yeah.
Still here we are.
Still couldn't quite keep up with the Bosch XX at 600 watts. So
you had, I'd say, at least 4 or 5 bike lengths on me.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long of a climb. That would continue to stretch out the further we went uphill.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's not you, it's the bike.
But with that said, guess who had him out of the hole? This guy.
Yeah.
I nipped you a little bit. I got a couple of wheel lengths on you.
Uh-huh.
Because 60 newton meters of torque, 55 newton meters of torque.
Yeah.
I feel that on these bikes predominantly when you're just pulling out from almost a stop or coming out of corners. This has a little bit more shove.
A little bit more instantaneous power. Yeah,
exactly.
You had me worried off the start there, for sure.
Yeah, it didn't take long for 600 watts to show themselves. But
yeah, exactly.
So anyhow, that was a great test.
Yeah. All right, we made it to the top. 409.5 trail here in Crested Butte. Pretty steep, loose, rooty, rocky, motorized single track. And we went up about 2,000 feet, basically straight up the fall line. Pretty good test of just about any e-bike, I'd say.
Ultimately, I feel more comfortable on the Pivot.
Yep.
Versus the Norco, and the fit-wise is something we should get into a little bit because they're quite different in that regard.
Definitely, yeah. The Norco's got quite a bit longer of a reach with a 502 millimeter reach here on the size 4.
We are in the middle of their fit range, and it doesn't feel like it's too big for me, but it feels too big for my riding style.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel as comfortable on it. I don't feel as comfortable in technical terrain or descending as well, for that matter.
Yeah, the Pivot definitely has you a little bit more upright torso, a little bit higher body position. I find it a little bit easier to move around in those tight technical spots for sure, keeping weight on that front wheel a little bit more easily.
Yeah, I think it's got way better traction.
Yeah.
It is a full 29er. This is a mullet, so we can expect a little bit less traction, but it was quite noticeable, I thought.
There's really no mistaking that the Norco was the faster, more powerful bike, made it up quicker, less effort to pedal for sure.
And well, Dylan, you know it takes power to make power, so how's your battery looking?
It's not looking great. Yeah, we're looking at 1 out of 5 bars illuminated right now on the LED display right here on the top tube, and it's glowing an angry amber, telling me that it's probably time to go home.
Yeah, well, I'm looking a lot better over here on the Pivot. We know that the Fazua is going to be more efficient. It's got less power, and it's got a slightly bigger battery. So 430 watt hours versus 400.
Yeah.
So less power pulling out of a bigger battery.
Definitely.
And it's really apparent right now because I'm between 40 and 60% power still.
Yeah.
This bike. So
that's a lot more.
It's a lot more.
Yeah, I might go for a second lap on that one, but I'd definitely take this one to the outlet for sure.
Yeah, well, I'd say overall this played out pretty much how we expected.
Yeah.
The bike with more power is going to get up faster. That makes sense. The bike with more power is going to be getting up some of this really steep technical terrain.
Yeah.
Like that really impossibly hard section. It went further up. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, this one did very well. I felt more comfortable overall in it. It's smoother. I think it's better damped overall as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely smoother, more traction. Kind of hair in the tortoise sometimes, right? Like I'll get going on this thing and then all of a sudden slide out on a technical section and then you'll come creep up on me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty telling of these two bikes' characteristics as far as it comes to climbing.
Well, what do you say we turn these things around now and see how they do downhill?
Yeah, that's my favorite part. Let's do it.
I know, right? Let's go. Oh, that's a great descent and a really good test for how these bikes go downhill.
I found that, you know, from switching between two of these bikes, they definitely outperformed each other in different scenarios. I'd say the Norco with its longer reach and longer wheelbase really just feels more stable in a straight line, feels more solid under you. You have a bigger sweet spot between the two wheels where, you know, you can just sit there and really let the bike eat up all of this terrain. Whereas the Pivot, where with its slightly shorter wheelbase, more, you know, reasonable reach, something both of us are more familiar with, it definitely felt better in tighter, steeper stuff. And it's a little bit easier to move that thing around for sure.
You know what's interesting, Dylan, is that the Norco is a mullet, and you would expect it to be the other way around.
Right? Yeah, you really would.
So for me, like you said, the Norco VLT is very stable, very fast in a straight line.
Yeah.
That longer wheelbase like we talked about and that long reach. But man, it feels like to me I just fall apart in the corners on that bike. I can't get it together.
Yeah, I found it a lot harder to nail that balance point on the Norco where you're tipping it into a corner and you're feeling balanced on the entrance, in the middle, and the exit, and you just kind of nail it.
The Norco VLT to me is extremely underbraked. I mean, underbraked, like those brakes have no business on the 39 and some change pound e-bike, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. I'd be pretty happy about having those level ultimate brakes on like a 25-pound World Cup cross-country bike.
Same.
But on, you know, this e-bike where, you know, allows you to get into terrain like this, those brakes really do not do an adequate job of slowing the bike down, giving you control. It feels like you need to, you know, plan ahead more going into corners. It feels like you're not able to slow yourself down enough on certain features. And I've had a few descents on that bike, some long, steep descents where at the bottom I'm just gripping those brakes as hard as I can and smelling like a, you know, 18-wheeler going down,
Yeah.
going down.
Looking for the runoff ramp.
Yeah, exactly. Looking for a runoff ramp.
The Norco, because of its stability, can go really fast, but then it can overwhelm the suspension. It's got a pike in the front, it's got an inline shock in the rear, and of course those brakes, I think it gets overwhelmed, especially on this moto trail that's exceptionally steep and rocky.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I found that, you know, the Pivot, even though with its tighter wheelbase, I think the suspension just feels overall much better on the Pivot. Feels smoother. Feels like you have more travel than the Norco, despite those numbers being fairly similar. And
It's more fun, it's more playful, which goes against what a mullet is. So you would expect the Norco to be more playful because it's a mullet. That's why you get mullets. They're more
Right.
playful. They square off corners. They like to hoon around on the back wheel.
Yeah,
And here we are with a full terrain on it, and it is more playful
absolutely.
by quite a bit. All right, Dylan, what do you say we finish off the descent and then regroup at the bottom somewhere, have a conversation about how these bikes compare overall, maybe pull out the apps and look and see what our batteries ended up, a few other things, and yeah, just kind of finish this off.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, well, we just wrapped up an excellent ride on both of these light assist e-bikes, and I'm pretty sure there's a pretty big discrepancy in battery level here, but why don't we take the apps out and check just to be sure.
The Norco Fluid VLT finished our ride with a whopping 7% battery life left.
The Shuttle SL behind me has 34% battery left, so that's quite a difference.
Not unexpected.
Right.
Okay, like Yeah, the Bosch SX system has 600 watts and is drawing that from a smaller battery.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be a pretty big gap, maybe not quite that big of a gap, but a big gap nonetheless.
Was there anything that surprised you today, being able to just hop back and forth on either of these bikes?
You could argue that light assist e-bikes are an exercise in compromise.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was the compromise on the descents more so than on the climbs.
Definitely. Yeah.
I would say just how different they are descending, that the Norco Fluid VLT to me has compromises in its spec that affect its handling and affect its performance downhill.
Yeah. And it's definitely worth noting that the Fluid VLT comes in a 140 configuration where you get 150 mil fork paired with that 140 rear travel. And while I would think that that does address those downhill compromises a bit more, now all of a sudden we're compromising on the uphill and on weight.
That's going to be at least a 43, 44 pound bike.
Definitely.
Or heavier.
Yeah.
And what I loved about these two is that they weigh the exact amount, have the same head angle, because when you go to the longer travel version of the VLT, you do get a slagger head angle as well.
Well, Simon, given all that we've talked about, this is a head-to-head video after all. What's the winner here for you?
I'm Team Pivot here. I'm
Yeah.
Team Pivot Shuttle SL.
Taking the Shuttle SL.
I am. I'm more comfortable on that bike. It's more fun, more confident. I don't think the compromise in uphill performance was that great. And to me, it descends better.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think the Pivot Shuttle SL is just a better bike in terms of geometry, suspension, and spec. However, I do really like that Bosch SX drive system. I like the higher power output, and even though that's going to drain the battery faster, I'm personally okay with that compromise. Keep me in highest power level assist mode and I'll be happy. I do see the ideal rider and the ideal terrain for the Fluid VLT.
Same.
Quite frankly, it's not me or the trails that I ride.
It's not difficult, steep, chunky, gnarly moto trails.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be clear, for the way this bike is built, that probably isn't the intention. We're putting this in head-to-head because they match up very well weight-wise, geometry-wise, price-wise.
Yeah.
But going down, like you said, or going sideways to a VLT 140, which is longer travel, yeah, that would handle this terrain better. But then it'd be heavier. So here we are going in circles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dylan, I think this concludes our head-to-head between the Pivot Shuttle SL and the Norco Fluid VLT 130.
Yeah, it was super fun to get out in the field today and compare these two bikes. And if you like that sort of thing, head to the Blister website, become a Blister Plus member to get so many perks, including the best outdoor injury insurance that works worldwide, as well as access to our deep dive reviews where we compare several different bikes all to one another. And you can also become a digital access pass holder to get access to deep dives.
And if you enjoyed this video, please like it, head down to the comments, maybe let us know which one you would have chose, and please subscribe to this channel. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on the next Head to Head.